Frontliners. I'm your host, Edward Mbeche, the founder and CEO of Helen Super App. Today, I have my guest, Dr. Vic Manzo. I did say it right? Manzo. All
Yes, sir, you did.
right, perfect. I know that's like an Italian name, right?
Yes, it means beef in Italian.
Beef, like meat, or beef like, hey, we about to fight.
Now, depends how. I don't know if it has that type of slogan to, or that kind of aspect to it, but I know
Yeah,
just like cow, like beef, like you
beef,
eat.
like beef. Okay, okay. Do you speak any Italian?
Parlo italiano un poco, but I understand more than I speak.
Okay, good, good. So, like, if you were somewhere and someone yelled in Italian, like, "Man," you'd be like, "Yeah, I know." It's time
Yeah,
to run.
exactly. Like if I was in Italy, I can get around. I can go to a restaurant, order food. I can do all those things.
Okay,
It's just the like if I'm gonna have a long conversation or a conversation with someone, I'm more broken up in my Italian.
that's where they start losing your kind of. So, anyway, let's do this. Let's go back um, a little bit to give like maybe like a history to viewer or listener. Tell us a little bit. Who are you? Who is Dr. Vic Manzo? Like
I,
maybe we can go back where you from, where you grew up, like all that.
yeah, I love it. So I was born and raised in a suburb of Chicago called Melrose Park. At the time of growing up, it was a small Italian community for the most part. And it was tight knit, and it was blue collar community. And I grew up. I love playing sports. I played tons of different sports. My main one was baseball, but I used to have a basketball room outside my house in my driveway, so we would play all day, every day, because I didn't have a lot of things in life. So I had a basketball rim, and whatever I did have, we beat the heck out of it. In other words, we used it like
Yeah,
crazy. I mean,
yeah,
we were the hub of people coming to play basketball. I mean, we just started to do this thing, and it was just what I did. Sports what kept me sane. In other words, it was just my outlet, and it taught me life at the same token. So the organized side taught me more about life, but sports in general did too. So I grew up really big into that. But I always had a curiosity. At 12 years old, I remember telling my mom that I was going to understand this. I'm going to learn and understand this thing called life. And at 12, you might be going, "Wow, what's this guy saying these things?" That's
yeah.
for a 12-year-old. That's a little
I know.
prolific and so forth. But when you hear the backstory, then you'll know why. And what I didn't understand about life is why some suffered and why some didn't. I couldn't understand why some could have all the things in the world while someone else did it. And I was just like, why is that? Why is there such a huge separation? Because I
Yeah,
was the one who didn't have a lot, where I had cousins and family or friends who had multiple game consoles, multiple
yeah,
toys, 50, 60 games apiece. And then here I am with one console that I pretty much paid for myself with
yeah,
4 or 5 games, maybe. And maybe I got some other games from, from Christmas or something from certain family members. And it was one of those things where I didn't want to have that because I saw the financial struggles. I saw how people talked about finances, and I wanted to do something different. I wanted to be the opposite of that. And so I appreciated going through it, even though it wasn't fun, but it taught me what I didn't want to create the life of what I did want.
So
And
with the, sorry to cut you off.
no, go ahead.
With all the growing up playing all the basketball, I know probably like motivated by Michael Jordan since he was still also like in the Chicago whatever. And with this, as a kid, did you get to do to kind of maybe learn? Did you do anything like in terms of like business? Like, did you sell ice cream? Did you sell cookies? Like, what did you do as a kid?
You
Kind
know,
of just
I didn't have any businesses per se. I remember one time I used to trace cartoons and try to sell them for a quarter, just for color. It's like they didn't have printers as much back then, so I would do that. But no, I mean I didn't do too much as a younger age. Maybe cutting grass. That's right. I
okay.
worked with a friend of mine. He was cutting grass. One of my best friends. And I was like, hey man, I'll come help you. I have an edger. I'll edge and you cut the grass and you give me a little bit and we can make a little money off this.
Yeah,
And then we did that for a little bit till one day I couldn't edge someone's grass properly. We got paid and then he got mad because it wasn't done right. And that was the end
yeah,
of that. So, but yeah, that was a short aspect of doing that. Most of the time I worked with my dad. He had 2 jobs and One was a full-time job at a grocery warehouse, and then the other one was laying carpet. And so there would be times where I work with him, and once in a while I get a little money for helping. And that's kind of what I would do just to try to, accumulate and save and those kind of things.
So you guys missed up one customer, and you're like, that's it, we getting out of this.
No, he kicked me out. I was the one that messed it up.
The guy, your friend that you
my
were
buddy,
helping.
he got mad. He's like, I almost lost that customer. He goes, that's it, you can't help me anymore. And I was like, come on, man, it was only like $5 I'm getting paid, but it was a manual edger, and it was so hard to do. I was there for like over 40 something minutes, and it was a corner lot house, and I'll never forget it. And I was just like, I just couldn't get it done. And I was like, man, I can't. I'm done. My hands are calloused. I've tried everything I can. We didn't have the electrical tools, and so I was just like, heck with it. And paid the consequence on that one.
You're like, forget it. I'll take my $5. That's it. Yeah.
He can deal with the headache.
I know. So with the basketball, like playing when you're a kid, like you play all kind of sport. So you said, was it like motivated by like, hey, one day I want to be like Michael Jordan or whatever? Or was it like just fun?
It was more fun because baseball was my sport that I was really into. I really liked baseball and the challenges of baseball. But growing up in Chicago, I mean, Michael Jordan, it wasn't when I saw him win the championships. No, I just loved watching him play. But it was later in my life. This is what got me into mindset a lot, because here's Michael Jordan. Now, we can have any argument in the world. To me, he is the greatest basketball player of all time. The way he played, how he played the game, everyone wants to give it to LeBron James. I don't see it, but they're in different eras though. So it's kind of hard to quote that. So just to give that context, I do understand the different eras. I mean, Jordan played where you can put two hands on somebody and play defense. LeBron's era, you can't do that. So that just changes the whole game. But the whole thing I looked at is, here's Michael Jordan, 6'6". Yeah. And he's not the strongest. He wasn't the fastest. He wasn't the tallest, but he knew how to use his mindset to go against some of the greatest players of all time in basketball and dominate them. He created something called the fadeaway, and he made that his essence of what he did. And to me, to see him excel at the level he did, LeBron James, from a size perspective, from a strength perspective, LeBron James is beyond farther better from that level. I mean, he's bigger, faster, and stronger. But yet Jordan was still able to use what he had. And this is what I love about the message of it, because it taught me, even though I didn't realize it at the time, when I started to look back, when I look at mindset, the things I teach, I share people and teach them that you don't need all this other stuff. You have it all with you. You just got to know how to use what you have. And that's what Michael Jordan did. And he capitalized. Some people say, well, he had a 40-something inch vertical. Yeah, that might help a little bit. It makes it a little easier. But there's other things. But if you've seen the way he played, I mean, I've read the stories. I've read this book. They came out with The Last Dance. It gave you even a better understanding. I loved watching it because it took me back in my day. And I was just like, well, I didn't realize that, man. I didn't see that. Holy cow. Because I was a kid. But the level of, he played harder. He practiced harder than he did in the game. And I was like, imagine if he took the level of how he did in practice and took it to the game, what would that be? But that's just how he was and how his mindset was. And that differentiated him drastically. So that mindset kind of got me into perspective when it came to sports and life, and in sports originally, because that's how I took it. I was like, well, how can I get better at baseball? How can I perfect it? How can I overcome things and really get good at this? I wanted to play pro. That was my goal, potentially, of going down that route. And it got close. I got really, really close. But then there had to come the point where there was a couple potential opportunities. Maybe they could have turned down that route. But I was already in the level where I was getting ready to go to chiropractic school. And I was like, you know what, 22, I gave it what I did. I'd rather help baseball players than go be a baseball player, because if I got injured, I have to go back through the same route anyhow. So I might as well I gave it my all. I had a blast. I played baseball for 25 years of my life, played semi-pro since I was 16 years old, and I had a blast with it, and it taught me a lot.
And speaking of basketball, actually, rest in peace, Bill Russell. I know he just passed away, 88 years old. I guess I don't know him personally. I don't know. I never met him. So, but just reading in the news. So you're mentioning about. I know you were you are a former like certified pediatric chiropractor. Um, just I guess okay. So maybe just a little bit. My background: I grew up in Africa, never done this kind of stuff. When you mention a chiropractor to me, I'm like, okay, like I never been. So maybe a little bit explain to an African guy what is it exactly should I be expecting if I'm like, hey, I'm going to chiropractor?
So basically, chiropractic, if you go to a chiropractor, you're looking to create peak performance in your life in every aspect. Because what a chiropractor does, unfortunately, in America, it has thought of as being back pain, neck pain, and headaches. Partially blame the chiropractors for that, and I partially, most majority of the blame mainstream media. And it's one of those things where that's not what chiropractic does. A lot of times we've been taught from the medical world that when we do something for our health, it's a treatment based model, right? I have this going on, I do this, I get this result. That's very linear thinking, very logical, and that's how the whole medical system is developed. Unfortunately, or thankfully, chiropractic's not that. Chiropractic doesn't treat any illness, symptom, disease, or condition. It doesn't do any of those things. What it does, and what the emphasis of what chiropractic does, is focus on how do we improve the brain body connection? How do we improve the communication between the brain and body? Because if we can get better information coming through the body into the brain, then
Yep.
the brain can respond properly to adapt better to one's environment. That's the essence of chiropractic. And if we can adapt better to our environment, we're healthier. If we adapt to our environment, we thrive more. And this is every facet. This is your health. This is your mental capacity. This is handling emotions better, handling chemical stressors, physical stressors. You can challenge your body more. This is why the greatest athletes of all time use chiropractic. Michael Jordan used chiropractic. He said he
Yep.
started to use that and it took his game to leaps and bounds. You look at all the greats, Tom Brady, one of the best quarterbacks of all time.
Yep.
You look at him and he'll tell you he's been under chiropractic care since his early 20s. You can look at the greatest wide receiver of all time. Well, some may argue that, but Jerry Rice. I grew up watching Jerry Rice. And
Yep.
so he was the best wide receiver at 38 years old. He's been under chiropractic since he was around 25. Joe Montana got him in on it. So when you look at this, there's a pattern of success here. I'm not saying chiropractic is going to guarantee that. Absolutely not. But what chiropractic does is it helps the individual adapt better to their environment. So Jerry Rice or Tom Brady or Michael Jordan, the more they challenge themselves and the more they're putting stress on their bodies and their mind to try to excel, chiropractic is going to help them, give them the opportunity to adapt better, faster, and quicker. And so look at your life, right? This is where it comes now to your life. How
Yep.
do I adapt better to my life? Because you have a life too that you have to handle. You got a life that you're adapting to.
Yep.
Do you want to adapt 100% the best that you possibly can, or 50%? Or 30%. And the less you can adapt, the more stress that you're going to have in your nervous system. And the more stress in your nervous system, the more stress on the body. The more stress on the body, the less healing you're going to have. That's the
So
essence of chiropractic.
so yeah, the way my mind is going all over the place. So I'm thinking like, so this actually it should be something that like everyone probably should have who has not necessarily just a hectic lifestyle, but just be like, hey, so maybe there are people who say, hey, I'm going to aspire to just kind of give massage and probably is it better to stretch it to be like, you know what, forget the spa where you're just getting massage. Chiropractor is way better because it tunes you way more than just relaxing.
Yeah, I mean, massage is great though. It is necessary because you're getting the massage or tight muscles or imbalanced muscles is the byproduct of a body not adapting well. So there's could be scar tissue that builds up, and then chiropractic does wonders. I'm not going to say it doesn't, but it's not the end all be all. But chiropractic is the essence of health, right? When I say essence of health, it resembles it. So if you want to work out and be healthy, you can't just do it once or 5 times or 50 times or 75. It's a lifetime journey. If you
Yeah.
want to eat right to continue to support your health, it's not a
Uh-huh.
1 or 5 or 10. It's a
Exactly.
lifetime journey, right? It makes sense.
Okay.
Sleeping well, having a
Yeah.
good mindset. These are all things that relate to true health. Well, chiropractic's in its own entity at the same way. It's true health. You don't just go to a chiropractor once, 5, 10, 50, or 100 times and say, oh, I'm at 100. So
Yeah.
now I've hit my health. No, chiropractic is a process. It's a journey. It's a lifestyle. And Again, like I said, unfortunately, we think of these things in term, and we don't do just this in chiropractic. We do this in health and nutrition. I want to get weight loss. What's the best diet? I want to get in weight loss. What's this?
Yeah.
What's the new fit? Oh, I'm going to follow this guy. He's going to tell me to do this and I'll get in shape. No, forget that. Just find a system that works for you.
Yeah.
And stick with it for the rest of your life. I mean, things are going to change. Your needs and demands change as you get older.
Yeah.
But it's having routine checks and so forth. Do that. Same thing with exercise or nutrition, sleeping. I mean, these are things that you don't just do short term. Even though we get into that mentality so quickly. And again, we've been conditioned like this for who knows how long. But it's one of those. But it's one of those things that you want to. It's a more of a journey process. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. It's more like people are more. I guess I can say they are more conditioned, or maybe kind of programmed. People like, hey, I was in a car accident. Now it's time to go see a chiropractor, instead of like, hey, this is like a lifestyle where you have to kind of put in your lifestyle. That's awesome. So let's touch few topics. We're gonna go into like mindset, personal development, entrepreneurship, like spiritual and stuff, right? Maybe before we jump into that first, how do you find, or when do you find, like, how do you figure this is a good chiropractor when you're picking? Because they are not all the same, right? Some of them they're like, hey, maybe they might have just a massage chair, like where you go, they kind of, how do you pick the right chiropractor then?
Oh, this is going to probably burn some bridges here, but I'll be very blunt.
Let's burn them.
Yeah, here we go. Because it's one of those things where I guess if I look at it from my perspective and where I come from, when I look for a chiropractor, I want them to be what's called philosophically based, and what that means is they focus on. They have a subluxation based practice. So let me explain what those terms mean, because if you hear that, you're like, "What the heck is he talking about?" Subluxation is the reason why you go to a chiropractor. This is what we do. We adjust to remove subluxations. Subluxation just means an interference. It's a misalignment or interference in your nervous system that is. And when you have this interference, it creates this miscommunication. This is what I taught my patients: is miscommunication. When you have miscommunication, just like anything in life, all things in life are because of a miscommunication. All the tension and stress that we deal with. You look at relationships, you look at business deals, you look at your own self, there's all miscommunications. So this causes that kind of stress. So what this chiropractor is, and like I was kind of saying, is they focus on the subluxation. I'm not focused on a pain, a symptom, or condition. I'm focused on removing subluxations and allow the body to do what it's going to do. That is what I seek when I go look for a chiropractor. But there's also, not everybody wants that too. So this is where I got to kind of look at this a little differently, because some people may just be like, I just want to get out of pain. I don't care about anything else, right? They don't want to be the best version of their health. They may say that, but deep down they have conditioning that says, nope, I don't want to do it. That's too much work for me. Let me just get out of pain and let me get back to what I was doing. Then there's chiropractors that do that also. But for my world and what I do and what the chiropractors I interconnect with in my personal life, not professionally, is more of a philosophical based type of chiropractor, because it's more aligned to what really chiropractic is, and that is being a subluxation based type philosophical backed chiropractor.
Perfect. I know I've seen few of your video. You talk about like struggles in life. Like, why do we struggle in life? Like, why do people struggle in life? Kind of type. So maybe, yeah, because I've seen this kind of, you have passion for this. Like, maybe just kind of go into little bit detail. Why do we struggle, or why do people struggle in life?
Yeah, the biggest reason why we struggle in life is, if I was going to keep it one sentence, it's because of resistance. That is the biggest reason why. And why is it resistance? Is because what you resist is what you persist. And so many times when it comes to business, comes to life, and comes to other things, we are focusing on what we don't want rather than what we want. Right. And you can look at this in any aspect of life. You can look this at, I want to make more money. Then a bill comes in. Oh man. Or I don't have enough money to make this bill. Man, I don't have enough money. What I get at the end of the month? Oh man, I didn't get enough to get this. I didn't get enough to get that. And it's all focusing. So then you wonder why I'm not getting to the level I want to financially, or I'm not getting to the level of my business or my relationship or my health or whatever it may be. Is because when you focus on what you don't want, you're creating resistance to things. Or sometimes it's all about having that mental toughness. Like, you have to be tough. You got to put up a fight. And that's another form of resistance. We fight what we want to we resist things that are painful, uncomfortable, and so forth. And so when we built that wall up, you're going to have to constantly be doing that because of the law of focus. Whatever you focus on, you're going to create in your reality. And so it's that really critical point of understanding that, hey, you know what? It's easier just to go through it and learn what you have to learn through this uncomfortableness, maybe even getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. But it's so many things. Like in 2008, 2009, when the recession hit, there was economists, coming out saying, they're like, oh, we're going to give bailouts, right? And they said, don't do that. Just let us go through the process. If we just go through the process, we'd be out of here in a year and a half. But if you bail out, it's going to take 4, 5, 8 years to do that. Well, heck, they were right. Why? What happened? We resisted. We were trying to resist what we had to go through. And it's not that it's going to be all bad. No, there's no storm that lasts forever. And there's things that we can get from that. So it's just knowing that, let go, trust, take what you have to do. If there's no immediate danger, to you, your health, your life, business, whatever, then go ahead and take a moment here and just say, okay, I'm just let me just do some breathing. Let me just calm myself so I can navigate through this storm. And then also see at the end that you're going to learn something more about yourself that's going to help you get closer to your future self.
Yeah. Kind of, I was thinking about another word to kind of say, but yes, kind of, I'm getting mental block. It's more like, you power through it, you come out the other end stronger. Almost that's the word I was looking for. And so in a way, and I know you talk about like mindset first, like people focusing on mindset. What should we all like focus on mindset first?
Mindset is where everything starts and ends. Mindset, if we change the word mindset to like glasses or lenses that you wear, that's how you see the world. And so if you have a scarcity mindset, you're going to see scarcity throughout your whole life. And you're never going to be able to achieve the level of success you want to get to. You won't have the finances or the means of the abundance of what you want, because that is, when you're looking at it, that is from an aspect of looking at scarcity. Now, if you look at from an aspect of abundance, now you see abundance everywhere. There's no limitations of money. There's never a lack. There's always abundance and always constantly coming. The same thing goes into a growth mindset or a fixed mindset, right? If I have glasses on and I have a fixed mindset, when I have a shortcoming, I face a struggle, a failure, well, that's just going to be always going to be. That's just how it is. This is what I have to deal with, right? But if I see it from a growth mindset, right? I'm wearing my growth mindset glasses on. Now, all of a sudden, when I have a challenge come up, it's like, yes, I'm going to grow. Here's more opportunities for me to learn. Here's more opportunities to get better at my craft. Here's more opportunities to learn more about me, uncover things I didn't know about, what I need to focus on. And that just starts to change the perspective. So mindset's all things. So you can see just from how your mindset is, it's what's going to create your reality and how you see the world.
Like challenge accepted. When you see them, you're like, challenge accepted. Yeah, that's good. And I guess that's part of like I was saying, I know you mentioned also like being our potential. What does it mean being, our potential means? I don't know if I'm saying the right way. Sometimes it's like I'm trying to translate things in Swahili. You understand what I'm trying to say, right?
Totally. What's the potential? What's our potential that we can, see? Well, one thing we know is that there is no one that can tell us what our limits are, right? No one can. We don't know our limits. And so the beautiful thing is that we are limitless. We can create the impossible. There is no limits that we know of. I used to think when I was in chiropractic school and I learned about the body, there's like all those limitations of matter. We're starting to disprove that now. It's interesting how we can change things. And what we're learning here. So let me get it in a context that's very easy for people to grasp. Your potential is really what you can imagine in your mind's eye, what you can see in your mind's eye. And that's your imagination. So whatever you can see in your mind's eye is what is potentially available to you to create, because what you cannot see, you cannot create. These are spiritual truths that have been around for 3, 4, 5,000 years. So unknowing this, man, now all of a sudden, imagine you whip up a dream or a movie in your head of what you want to create and have in your life. Guess what? That's your potential. If you can see it, you can create it. So then it's like, wow, holy cow. Now there's always the questions. How do I get to my potential? Forget the hows. Your job was never to figure out the hows. We are co-creating life with God, the universe, Allah. We call it in chiropractic. Well, we don't say we were co-creating with you. We call it universal intelligence. Is another form of it. But it's one of those things where You are co-creating. Its job is to my wish is your command. So when I seek and say this is what I want to create, here's the movie in my head, here's the visualization I'm doing. Its job is to figure out the hows for you. Your job is just to keep your energy focused and your vibe focused as high as possible of what it is you want to create.
Yeah, yeah. Let's talk about your programs. I know you on your program you talk about spirituality with science. What is that?
Anytime I talk about spirituality, I remember when I was in chiropractic school and I was getting really into energy medicine and so forth. And some people are like, oh, that's woo-woo stuff, or that's way out there kind of stuff. And you know what? I was like, okay, fine. You're gonna keep throwing that at me. I'm gonna learn from this. I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna figure out how to connect the dots here.
Yeah.
And I was about 24 years old. And I remember my spiritual teacher at the time was like, she's like, I don't understand you. She goes, you are so left logical world that you're in with chiropractic and everything I was studying. And then she's like, but you have such an advanced, like you're so far on the right side in the spiritual realm. And I was like, well, I'm trying to figure out how to connect these dots because I'm getting tired of being told woo woo and all this stuff. And so what ended up happening was I started learning and studying quantum physics. I started hearing about consciousness in quantum physics. What the bleep do we know? I started looking into that documentary. That's, those things. And I was like, oh my goodness, this is what I've been looking for. And I started to bridge the gap of spirituality with science. And I didn't do this. I didn't create any of this. I'm just using the material that's out there.
Yep.
And what it was is I started to learn, like I was saying before, what you create in your mind's eye is what you create, you create, that's your potential. Well, if I change that just a little bit, it's what you create in your mind's eye is what your eyes are going to see, right? It's all about the power of vision. What we see in the non-physical, which is in our mind, is what we created in the physical. Your brain can't tell the difference between, now this is neuroscience, your brain can't tell the difference between non-physical and physical. Whatever you put up there is what it's going to think is real. But the quantum physics came in and tied some of the power of vision and stuff and the spiritual truths that I share, because quantum physics and the observer effect said that whatever you see is what it's going to become. How you see it is what's going to become. And this whole study of the observer effect was looking at it didn't come out that way. What they were looking, they wanted to see if light was in a wave format, which is unlimited potential, it's non-physical, or is it in a particle, which is physical matter, a specific point, right? And what the scientists, when they first had the recorder looking, the light was showing up in a wave format. The scientists would go ahead and look, and all of a sudden the wave would turn into a particle. They look away, it go back into a wave, and it did this the whole entire time. And what that meant for a consciousness perspective is that how we see something is what it's going to be. We literally, our mind changes and manipulates matter. And so when I said you can see it in your mind's eye, if you can imagine it, that's your potential. Quantum physics has supported that. And so that's just one part that I like to share. There's another part on how you program your world, right? We're the creator of our lives. Well, the brain, there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system. It's otherwise known as RAS. It has multiple functions of what it does for us. But one of them is it filters out information that's not deemed valuable, right? You have billions of you. Like right now we're talking. Right now I'm looking into a camera, right? But my brain is not, all I can see is a camera. I can see fuzziness and background stuff. But my brain is taking snapshots of every little detail around me. That's millions and millions of bits of information it's taking right now. Now, what grabs my attention is only what I deem valuable. Let me just say that again. What I deem valuable is the only thing I'm going to be aware of, right? So whatever catches your eye and whatever you see. So if you read a story, how you interpret it, whatever you picked up from that story is what you value. If you saw an event, the only thing you're going to remember is what you value. Your brain's going to take out the stuff that isn't. This is how you dictate your life. You change your RES, you change your whole entire world. You change how you see it. This comes back again to what we were talking about earlier about mindset. If you have a scarcity mindset, you deem valuable that it's important for you to see scarcity. So you'll never see opportunities. You'll never see money opportunities. You'll miss them. You'll go into something, let's say it's Bitcoin, and you'll miss the mark and you'll buy at the high just because you have a scarcity mindset, and you'll miss buying at the low. Not because you didn't plan it out right. It's just scarcity mindset. I got to hold on. I got all this little bit left. And that fear, well, you're going to create more of holding less and less and less because of that fear. And so this is how we connect the dots between spirituality and that, is that understanding that from a spiritual perspective, what we see in our head is what we're going to create in our reality. Everything comes from the non-physical to the physical. This is what they said 4,000 years ago. Yeah. Well, now we know that. Science finally has caught up to this old age wisdom that's always been, has not been wrong. And it's now showing that a lot of these spiritual truths are actually truth. They're factual information that has been given, and science has just bridged the gap on that now to say, you know what? If you don't believe in this woo-woo stuff, who cares? And it's
Yeah.
kind of like this. I'll share a little different of this, but it's the same thing. When I learned energy medicine, there's something called an aura that we all have around us. It's a glowing light you can't see with your eyes that we all
Yeah.
have. It has colors. It means different things. There's just different levels of the aura and all this stuff, right? When I first used to talk about that, people were like, "Oh my God, he's going out to the far end. This is that woo-woo witchcraft."
Yeah.
So one day, I remember I was talking to a patient. I said, "Yeah, you have." We were talking about something with energy, and I said, and then they asked about, "Do you believe in auras?" I said, "Well, what's there to believe?" And they're like, "Well, it's not really." I'm like, "It's a scientific fact. You don't have to say, oh, it's not called auras for being scientific." But I'm like, "It's a scientific fact. We have them." And she's like, "How do you know that?" I said, "Change the term to biophotonic. That's the scientific term of auras." So it's the same thing. See, I'm connecting something that people thought was way out there, didn't believe it to be true. Now here's a scientific fact. And the biophotonic fields that we all have, or the resonates off of us, we have it in the human body. Plants have it. Animals have it. We all have it. And there's cameras that actually capture this stuff. And so that's just another example of bridging the gap from spirituality and science together.
Perfect. Perfect. That's awesome. and and this is actually really good. I'm learning a lot of stuff here. and and what does it like I know like I'm kind of like became a little bit like of your fan because I'm always kind of watching your video. What does it mean when you say there's no rules to life except the one you create?
I love this quote because it's something that, there's a couple pieces to the puzzle to this, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, the simple one is we already talked about it through quantum physics. But
Yeah.
let me take a step back.
Yeah.
So in my first book called Rediscover Your Greatness, in chapter 3, I say the words are the fabric to your reality.
Well, go back. What's the name of the book again?
Rediscover Your Greatness.
And this is at Amazon.
It's on Amazon, yeah.
Okay.
And in chapter 3, I talk about something called words are the fabric to your reality. How you define something in your life is what it's going to be. That's a fact. Now, how do I know that's scientifically true? Let's go back to the quantum physics thing that I shared earlier. How you see something is what it's going to be, right? How you define something is what it's going to be because that's how you see it. So a lot of times the words you're using, right? We look at witchcraft. Let's go back to witchcraft a little bit. So curses and spells, right? You ever notice that when you say a word, there's a spelling that comes with it, right? Words are a spell. They're not in a bad way. We think of spells as a bad thing,
Yeah.
but it's a casting of energy that we're putting upon something. And so when you are using words to define your life, I mean, when you use words, it's going to define your life. Now, no rules in life except the ones you create tie to not only the words we choose, but it's more the beliefs that we have. If you believe whatever you want to believe, that's going to create your reality. It does not matter. There's people that didn't, when we had phones that were tied to a cord,
Yeah.
someone believed that they can make that phone be able to be cordless. And then we had cordless phones in the house.
Yeah.
Then someone said, "Hey, I believe we can make this where it's on something else where we don't have to be at the home." And all of a sudden someone believed it. Well, eventually it became true. Non-physical to physical. You're going to start to see this pattern with this.
Yeah.
And so what ends up happening is that however, I call it codes, like how I live my life are by these codes. And it's the same thing as beliefs that, like, for an example, I will, whatever I set my mind to, it's going to happen, right? Whatever I set my mind to, it's going to happen. Every, as long as I keep my vibe in a positive state, I will create anything that it is that I want to create in my life. And I can go down all these other different ones, but I am financially abundant. I am, all these different beliefs. And it's just these things that I live my life to. And that's just the reality of my life. So like if I look at something, let's say something happens to me, what's really happening through me, it's happening where I'm at, something to teach me something. But let's just say I had what somebody would say a bad experience.
Yeah.
Well, I have the choice to say that's bad, or I have the choice to say that's good.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, life is meaningless. It really is.
Yeah.
The only meaning to life is what you put on it. That's putting a rule on it. That's programming to say, what does this really mean for me? And nobody, unless you allow them to accept it, can tell you what life means or what something means to you. You as an individual are a spiritual alchemist. And what that means is you can transmute energy. You can take an event that can be very, very dark and low vibration of shame, guilt, whatever those emotions can be. And you can look at that and say, well, here's what happened. And I have two choices. I can be a victim of it. I can be this of it. I can be that, which I can stay in this state, or I can have the choice to choose to be in a different state. And that's my belief. That's been scientifically proven, but still you can still have your own beliefs that go against things. But for me, it's like, that's my belief that I can choose. And when I know I can choose, now I can choose how I react to things, because it's not about what happens in your life. It's about how you react to them. We've all heard that quote. But what I mean by it is that when I talk about react, I'm not just talking about emotions. I'm talking about how you see it. What's that going to tell you? What is that going to give you? What's the information you're going to grasp from that that's going to help you show more of what you really are? How do you express? Can it unleash things in you because you become more aware of something within yourself? And then you can share that more with the world, because that's really what darkness does, or our challenges and obstacles that we face in our life do. They're not bad. They're there to help us transmute things, to help us level up in our life. It's to break the barriers or the chains, the ball and chains that we've created, our mental prison, and just kind of make the room a little bigger, or take, just weaken a link a little bit more, so that we can get, continue to move closer to that freedom that we seek.
Actually, that kind of expand. Maybe I've been working on this. I heard this long time ago. Nobody can make you mad, but you can decide to be mad. So maybe from there, I need to expand to trying to see other things, because I've been just be like, yeah, I'm kind of like becoming the master of that. Like when someone pisses me off, I'm like, yeah. So I don't take that to, like, I know how to control that. Like, you're not gonna be mad unless I decide to be mad.
Well, that's true. And here, I'll just share this, because this will really help change you really quick. Whenever you react to anybody, they control you.
See? Yeah.
Because you think about it now, they own you. Because now they're pushing your buttons. They know how to control you. Then you lost control of yourself, and now they control you. So I always say, like, never. One of the quotes I've always used to follow a lot is, never let anyone interfere with the stillness you have within. Right. And sometimes, sometimes things will happen, or it could be something may have done something bad to me, or they say something to me that's really rude, and I don't react. And sometimes, like, you're not going to say anything, you're going to let that go. Sometimes I get this on social media with some of my videos, and some people will come at me hardcore, and I'm just like, wow. And what that tells, I always tell people, how you see someone react to something that you're doing is usually not about you. It's about the inner dialogue they have going on within. So what do? I can hone upon it. I can go into that and get aggravated or pissed off, or I just send them blessings. It's just like if I'm driving, once in a blue moon, I may miss something, or I didn't see a car coming, or whatever, and I get they tell me I'm number one. I'm not using the finger, okay? I always say they're telling me I'm number one. I have a new daughter. As I told my wife, if that ever happens when I have our daughter in the car, or our kids, I'm just gonna tell them they're telling me I'm number one. Just remember that, right? I can choose that, right? But what I always do is I wave, smile, and I'm in my head, I'm just giving them love and light. And some people say, oh, you're not doing that. Well, here's the thing. If I give into that, then they control me. My goal in life is to master as much as I possibly can, not to let anyone interfere with my stillness. Now, I'm not going to win at that every single time. I always say mastering means you're done with things, and we're never done with anything, not in this life nor in the afterlife. And so I would just say I'm always trying to perfect that and get better at it as much as I possibly can.
I like that. Like, they say I'm number one, and actually by waving, it can change their whole perspective too, by kind of turning them. You never know. Also, people, what kind of stuff they're going through, and for you reacting to it, it kind of actually, you can transfer that energy to them. Kind of be like, hey, let me calm down, or whatever.
You're giving them the opportunity, because I've been in, we've all been in arguments, and sometimes someone's just coming at you. You can feel the energy of that. And I've learned over time, you just, they say just ignore it and eventually goes away. And somebody say, well, that's not really true. In certain situations, that is. In this situation, when someone's coming at you like that, just ignore it. Why give in? Right? You get to choose what you want to put your focus to every single day. And what you're choosing is what's creating your reality. It's choosing, because what you choose is going to create a vibe, and that vibe is going to create a vibration, and that vibration creates the law of attraction. Well, it aligns with the law of attraction.
Yeah.
And so I can let someone disrupt my vibe, right? I can get angry, frustration. That's lower vibes.
Yeah.
And the more I stay in that place, what's going to happen is, and this is how the universe works now, is when you do this, then the universe has to create more to show you the vibe you're focusing on. That's just how it works. And so then you have to say, well, how do I do this? Well, I have to shift my vibe, right? And that's where I'm always like, when I see it, I just clear myself. Even if I feel that knee-jerk reaction wanting to go, because I'm human, I'll just take some deep breaths, reset my energy, and then I send positive vibes, and I just go on with my life. And now maybe I'll tell my wife the story later to make her laugh. I'm like, honey, someone said I was number one today. I was number one in their life. And she'd be like, what do you mean? And well, she knows now when I say that. But when I remember the first time I did it, I said, I had someone literally tell me I was number one. And then they say some words I couldn't really understand. I think they said, I don't know what I might even get close to it. Something, you, and I don't know if I was like, whatever. And she's like, what are you talking about? And all of a sudden I said, let me explain what really happened. And I tell her, she's like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, but who cares? Like, she's like, man, who knows? They're probably going through some bad day or something. I'm like, regardless, it's not me to figure out. So
she better be like, you a genius. Like the way you get like, that's awesome. Yeah. Let's talk about Matrix, not the movie. You talk about what is the Matrix and why should we be aware of it?
Yeah, I mean, the Matrix, another term for the Matrix is human collective consciousness. And what that means is that it's every thought, emotion, and what humans are focusing on all together. So each individual human, all together, you average that out. They're all in a different vibe, and you average all those vibrations, and that becomes the Matrix. Now, to be aware, the reason why you want to be aware of this is because the Matrix is not good and it's not bad. It just tells us where we are as average of humanity. And based upon that vibration creates the experiences of what humans experience. And so this has come, some of this work that I pulled from, and he doesn't talk, I just want to be really clear. He does not say frequency or vibration. Those are my terms I use. He'll use the words conscious levels, but it's Dr. David Hawkins, his book called Power versus Force. And what he does is he done all this testing of different consciousness levels for many different things, countries and music and different, all these different stuff, religions. And what was interesting about it all is that you have the Matrix, which is a certain vibration, but in his work, he says that the consciousness level of humanity has always been under supporting life. And so there's a certain level, which is his work, I think it's 200 or 204, but that's supporting life. Anything above that support life, anything about underneath is not supporting life. And so when you look at the world we live in today, would you say that, when we're seeing more extinctions in animals, I just heard the monarch butterfly now is an endangered species, and you're seeing more animals becoming extinct. And you look at forests, they're just minimizing more, and you see more plastics in the ocean, and you see our soils being stripped of minerals and nutrients, and we're seeing more diseases. Would you say that's supporting life or not supporting life?
It's tricky. Should I say, is it destroying life?
Exactly right, because supporting life we would see more life. Yeah. Not supporting life is another word of saying that it's destroying life.
Yes.
Right. So we're destroying. So we're in that vibrational state, and so understanding that is now why is that critical to know is because one, we're conditioned. We're conditioned in many different ways, right? Kids, they say, well, kids are just mean to each other. Well, why is that? Well, we're at a vibration of that. We're not supporting. We're in the initial stages, kids are not like that. They're very friendly. They connect with people. But due to our conditioning as adults and our society and the Matrix, they're conditioned a certain way. And so the key thing is then to become aware, in order to change all this, is we have to focus on ourselves and raise our vibration higher than the Matrix. And I share this in my book a lot, but in Decoding the Matrix, but it's one of those things where we have to start living our potential more. We have to start truly living what matters most to us. We're human beings that create. We're not copycatters. Like in business, I even had a coach just recently where he was like, just follow other people and do the same thing. And this guy makes $1 million+ a year. And I was sitting there and I'm like, no, I don't want to be a copycatter. Yeah. I want to create stuff that means something to me. And I literally, you can tell, I mean, if you look at my stuff from the last year, my videos and all that, in the last 3 months, you're going to notice A lot of stuff has been more unique in some ways. It crosses over because I always tell people, I'm not here to tell you something new. That's not my goal. I'm not here to create some cute little term, to create this little thing. I know that's very popular and a lot of people go after that. And there's nothing, I'm not bashing it. I'm not judging it. It's just not my way. I just want to teach people, like, you don't need to go learn more stuff. Like I remember, and this is, I'll share a quick story on this and I'll get back to the matrix. I promise it's all going to connect. But when I was learning energy medicine, I was studying so many different techniques. I got to about number 12. But it was around number 10, I started going, this is just different ways of accessing energy. Like, there's nothing really different here. Like, it's just a different way of doing it, but it's all energy at the end of the day. I said, well, let me just see. I'm going to do a couple more techniques. I want to just see what happens. So I did. And it was the same thing. And I was like, wow, this is just energy at the end of the day. Same thing when it comes to information. Nothing has changed. You can go read a book from 1900 on marketing. It's the same thing now. And I had an interview with somebody. I was talking about this where we were saying, I said, yeah, the players, the game always stays the same. The players just change, right?
Yeah.
They say, don't hate the game, just hate the players.
Yeah.
The game is always the same and never changes. The information that's out there is always, it's just recycled stuff. You just change the words around. It's like, oh my God, that's so great. Go look at one quote. You'll find 10 different ones that are almost identical to it, right?
Yeah.
Slightly different, but they're all saying the same thing. We don't need to learn more things. I'm not saying learning new things isn't important. I'm a big fan of that. But we have to start learning to take what we have and utilize that, because the matrix is so easily designed to condition you in so many ways. I could talk about the business world. What's the biggest thing that are told the business owners, and entrepreneurs? You need to grind, you need to hustle, you need to get into sweat equity. You got to hard work and long days to become successful. You got to sacrifice your time, your family, your health, and your relationships in order to get that success. Sorry, it's just the way it is. That's how the system is. That's the game. No, it's not. That's one way. It's not the way. But since that's the biggest message being told, then all of a sudden this becomes the way. And then how the matrix works is when you have some people conditioned, now this becomes a belief, right? Because you believe this is how the game is. Well, I never got there, but guess what? This person who's making millions a year, they're shouting it from the rooftop that that's what you need to do. So I'm assuming they get this. But guess what? That's not the only one. Here's another person making millions a year saying the same thing. Guess what? This person's a millionaire saying the same thing. And all of a sudden you got all of them saying the same thing. And you're like, well, this has to be true, right? Now you believe it. Now what you did is you've been conditioned, you've been put into a system and you don't know it. So now you struggle and you bust your living behind to try to become successful, and you may hopefully get there. I forgot, somebody told me the stats. I think it's when you start a business, 50% of them fail, and in 5 years, 90% fail. It's hard work. Well, does it have to be? I don't see living your passion and living what you love to do hard work. I don't see when you're really, I'll get clear on this, but it's not like when you're living your truth, there's a state of being in flow versus going against the grain. Right. And like we talked about earlier, we're talking about sports. There's something about being in the zone. If we can be in the zone every single time when we do our work, imagine what we can achieve in such a short period of time. Right. And there is some facts and there's truths that there's a whole different world that we've been conditioned to understand what we thought was what I call Newtonian physics. Well, it's not me calling that. It's Newtonian physics, which means force. I do this. I do this over a period of time. I remember I had this former coach and they were like, you got to get to this many numbers, this many people, this many things, and then you get to this many leads. This is the percentage of what it is. So it's a number game. You just got to keep doing this and this, and that's it. And I was like, yeah, I remember hearing this in chiropractic at one point when I was going through all this stuff too. And it's a number game. And I was like, you know what though? I don't think it has to be. It could be something else. And my experiences through my own business, I did the force, but there's a whole nother world called quantum. And what quantum says is that it's all about your vibration. It's not about effort. Because here's the thing. If it was effort, every entrepreneur would be a millionaire, or every entrepreneur would be living their dream life. And they're not. The actual true entrepreneur living a fulfilled and dream life to the way they want is really small. It's way smaller than it should be. And this is why I became a business coach, because it was one of those things where I was like, I saw what I went through. And then I was like, I see what they're going through, what they're being told and all this other stuff. And I know the health implements and plus everything else. I was like, this needs to change. And so the quantum side is, how do you focus on your vibe? Because when you get to the vibration of where you need to, and there's mechanisms of how you can do that, then all of a sudden, when you're in that being, that's going to create the life that you desire. The ideas, the things you need to do. Because so many people like to take what I say out of context. When I say it's all about being, they're like, well, that you can't just sit there and think it up and it's just going to happen. No, you can't. I never said that. I said that you have to have the being first. And when you're in that vibration, then the ideas, the action steps or the inspiration to take action is going to come that aligns with what you want to create for yourself. And I call this effortless action because you're not thinking it. This
Yeah.
is a beautiful thing. We're so far into what we have to do, what, business. I could go down so many rabbit holes with funnels and this and that and all these other things. But what I teach is that if you can get into that state, that business idea, that thing that's going to get you closer to where you want to be, it's just going to come to you. And when it comes to you, then all of a sudden you act on it. And when you act on it, it works. And then you're like, how the heck this happened? And I'm like, don't say that, because I used to say that. And it's it's just a different way of living your life. And some people will get really resilient on it. I go, listen, you can go that route, go upstream, go not kill yourself, but go bust your behind till you get to that. Feed your ego, in other words, where I rather feed my ego on this side and be like, you know what? I'm creating this because everything happens not to me, but as I am.
Two things.
Go ahead.
Sorry. Okay. Two things. I know you work with founders of startup company and CEO. When you do this, do you work like one-on-one? Do you do like a convention kind of side? Like, hey, all founders has to come to this hotel and pay like 10,000 to hear you talk and teach them, go through the training. How does that work?
Yeah, I work with any entrepreneur one-on-one right now is my main thing that I'm doing. I do have layers built into what I will be creating in the near future. Like I do want to do like a whole weekend transformation kind of a process to teach how to do this and bringing different elements and pieces of the puzzle to share what really is this vibe? What does it feel like? Because a lot of times when I say vibe or stuff, I can use the word emotion because emotions is kind of what sets our vibe. But then there's also ways of how do you because once you can feel that and you can get your mind wrapped around to being aware of that, then I teach how do you get it in, how do you feel it in your body? Because where does it show up? And then when you can feel both of those, now all of a sudden you have a tool. And then it's just how do we maintain that? So my one-on-one coaching really is big on that because that's what I'm looking to. That's what I help those individuals to, like create their own vision. And it's all like a step-by-step process, not cookie cutter because it's all customized. Like what you're coming up with it's just teaching you a system to here's what we can utilize. But then there's bits and pieces that show up based upon what is this is the beautiful thing about coaching is I can figure out what is it that they need at the pressing moment to address now so that we can focus on that. Cause I could just feel maybe the heaviness of something that we're talking about or whatever that may be, but it's teaching them how to basically just, one-on-one to create their dream life with ease.
Actually, like the way, just my own thinking or my own way of understanding, actually this for CEO or founder, this can be really great in terms of even just kind of creating, but because you're learning this, and also that can translate into the company culture because it comes from the top, right? So that can transfer to company culture, which has become like really cool. I know. We probably before we go, I wanted to ask you one thing also. You talk about the darkness. Our darkness moment is our greatest ally. Can you explain a little bit what do you mean exactly when you say that?
I love when people ask me this question because it's always like, wait a minute, he's talking about darkness and that's great. And it's our friend. He's like, what the heck? We've been told to fear the dark, right?
Yep.
And so it's one of those things where, the challenges, the darkness of life, the things we face, right? Our fears, whatever that may be. There is wisdom that's there that is needed for what we need at the moment in our life to level up or to expand, to learn something more about ourselves, to become more aware. It's like I want you to think of it like let's say a flashlight, a big flashlight. So it's real big and you have all this dust on there, right? So every time we face the darkness, we can wipe a little bit of that dust off. Every time we face the darkness, we can wipe a little more of that dust off. And eventually we have this beautiful bright light shining and we can go and navigate the world of what we want, how we want. And so the darkness is always there to serve us. Life is contrast. There's always going to be darkness. But what the darkness does is it helps you understand the true power of who you are, right? Because when you think about this for a second, you take a candle and just one candle flame in a bright lit room like here, you're not really going to see much of that light, right? You can't see the power of it. We have to go into the darkness to see the power of who we really are. That's what, because now we're facing our fears. We're getting uncomfortable. We're going into uncertainty. You can change the word darkness to uncertainty. It's the same thing, because when
Yeah.
you're uncertain about something, that's pure darkness. And you have to navigate within. This is why I teach a lot of people in my second book, A Walk in the Dark, is how to navigate within and utilize that inner light you have to navigate through. Because when you put a candlelight in a dark room, pitch black, man, you can see the power. It lights up the whole entire room, right? And that is the beauty of what your soul does. That's what your essence does. That's everything within. There's a story, and I think it was a Hindu story in scripture. I can't remember offhand. I should go Google this now so I can be more accurate with it. But there was a story that they were man was trying to figure out where is the secrets of life that God installed. So they thought
Yeah.
he hid it somewhere. They're trying to find out where he hid it. And so they thought he put it in the mountains, and they went up to the highest mountain peaks and they couldn't find it. Then they said maybe he put it in the deepest parts of the ocean. So they went down to the deepest parts of the oceans. They couldn't find it. Then he was like, maybe they put it up in the air. So they got airplanes that started flying all over the skies to try to find it. And they couldn't find it. They got exhausted. Then they finally realized, after all this work, at the end of their lives, they finally realized that he hid it within, because he knew humans will always look outside. But look at life and how we do it.
Yeah.
Right? What do I need to do? Tell me the hows. That's looking outside yourself. The darkness makes you go back to look within and trust yourself. It gives you, because life only gives you 100 and 200 feet in a dark path. You only can see 100 and 200 feet on that road. And so the key thing is, when you go through darkness, it's going to help you become more aware of the things you need to work on, the things you need to heal, but also your inner strengths and truths, finding out more about who you really are. Because we can't, a lot of times in life, there's for majority of people of their life, what they go through is that they have an idea of what they know, and then they have an idea of what they think they can be. And so they go through the know, which is comfortable, right? I'm just going to live this life, do this. And then they all of a sudden they go, I think I can become this. Great. Here comes the uncomfortableness. Here comes the darkness that comes from that. And then eventually they hit a point where, like, maybe some failures show up, maybe this. And it's just people stop going after their dreams, not because they think they can't. It's just they're not capable of handling the uncomfortableness or the darkness that comes with it. And then all of a sudden they're like, I'm going to go back to what I know because it's safe. And then eventually they build up some reserves and they get tired of that life. And then they want to go back to what they think they can do. And then they go that route. And then they don't hit the mark because, again, the uncomfortableness they haven't gotten over. And then they go back to what they know. And it's a constant cycle. And they never get to anywhere where they want to be. And if we can learn to embrace the darkness, embrace the uncertainty, that's where the life of what we want. And the universe is what helps bring that to us sometimes, to help us level up, to help us become more aware, to help us break the barriers to get to those the levels of where we want to go to, or help us understand why our vibration's not rising, to help create awareness. Because I really believe, based on just my own experiences and working with others, is 50 to 90% of solving problems is awareness. Yeah. And once you have awareness, everything else is taking to pretty much take care of itself, because it aligns with the law of focus. And so the whole purpose of darkness is to help you become aware of something. And if you can create more awareness, let's say you have a low self-worth and you're seeing it show up, and you're just getting more and more uncomfortable, and then more those lower vibration emotions. And then eventually you're like, you know what, there's maybe that, I'm going to shift the way I think now, because I'm tired of feeling this way. Right? Because humans don't make changes unless they're sick and tired of being sick and tired. We say this in health, but it's also in life. When someone wants to get on a call with me and for coaching, the first question I'm going to ask you is, why'd you get on this call? And most of the time it's, I'm tired of not getting to this level. I'm tired of not being able to, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. And I'm like, okay, great. You're sick and tired of being there. And they're like, yeah, exactly. And I'm like, all right. So then of course I want to know more why of that, but it's one of those things where we don't make change unless we do that. And the darkness, if we can learn to embrace it, it will create a more fulfilled life, a more soulful life. And you can actually see the beauty of life, because life is it's all good. You can go and look at the bad, but really it's all good. And when we see bad, quote unquote bad, those are opportunities for something that we need to heal, to transmute to the next, to a different level.
Two things that I want to mention as I'm listening. I'm like, this is awesome. This is a lot of good value. I like TED Talk. Have you done TED Talk? You gotta do TED Talk.
Oh man, you're like the 10th person that told me this, but go ahead.
Yeah, this value need to be just kind of brought to millions. The second one, I was like, man, this would be great if you can add. I know you focus on the entrepreneur, like a CEO or founder. It'd be nice if you can add politician in that. Politician, like, I feel like they're like just out there. So like this, they can use this. but probably
Here's the
would be
thing.
like,
Going back to the Matrix really quick, you said politicians, correct?
yeah,
Right? So I make sure. And so, politicians who lead our world is not based on who we vote, but by the vibration of the people of the country. Because it's our leaders, right? But they're only a reflection of the people because the people are the ones who have the power. So some people say, well, that's not true because we vote and this and that. No, no, no. I'm not talking about people who just vote. It's also the people who don't vote. It's their vibration where they're at too. You got to understand, it's not just voting. It's all the whole. What America's 300 and almost 40 million people. It's the totality of 340 million people, not 150 or 130 million people voting. It's a totality of it all, just like in any other country. They're the ones that dictate. So as much as I would love to get this in the politician's head. My motive, and in my book, I talk about this, where instead it's the power of the people. Because if I can just help one individual become more aware to find more fulfillment and start to lead their potential, their vibration rises. Now, everyone they interact with creates a ripple effect. They're going to feel that. And it gives them the opportunity to liberate them to do the same. Now, what does that happen? If we can continue that, it starts to happen a domino effect. And now all of a sudden, the vibration of the country rises. Now you get a political leader in there who is looking at things from that level of vibration. Right? They're going to, no matter what, they're going to get to the office because of the vibration of the people. So a lot of times, some people say, well, then I don't have to vote. I can just sit back and relax. Well, no, voting's important. I'm not saying, I never said it wasn't. Again, they're putting words in my mouth. I never said voting wasn't important. You're missing the principle then. The point of the story is it's the vibration of the people. If we can just change the vibration of the people, the same people are going to be voting. It doesn't matter. But they're going to vote for the person then who's going to be the element to help serve the people and help us have different experiences than what we're having now.
Thank you so much, Dr. Vic. I know this conversation we can keep talking about this, and maybe we can do a round 2 again soon. So maybe before we go, let's do a plug in, like your books. How many books do you have now? Like on Amazon or the books?
I have 3 books. So my first one was Rediscover Your Greatness. My second one was A Walk in the Dark, and my new one just came out in May, Decoding the Matrix.
That's Dr. Victor Manzo. That's Manzo. Just in case someone wanted to Google that on Amazon or one of the bookstore. Hey, thank you so much again, my friend, for taking the time to chat with me and just kind of add value to the people. And I really appreciate it. And hopefully we can do this again, like a second part of this. There's a lot of conversation here. No, I know normally it's supposed to be like half an hour to 45 minutes, but we went like 1 hour. So this is awesome. Thank you so much. How can people find you before we go?
Thank you for having me on. I would always love to have another convo with you.
Yeah.
For people to follow me, the easiest way is my website, empoweryourreality.com. If you're a business owner and you like what I'm talking about here, I offer a one-on-one free coaching call to connect. What's the struggles, what's the challenges, or what's the dream life you're trying to achieve, and then I'll give you some action steps afterwards. And then if I feel like you qualify and I can help you, I'll share how I can do that. The other thing is I have my podcast. I got free resources on the website. But if you want to follow me on social media, bottom left corner of the website, I'm on 4 different apps: Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok. You can follow me there. I post almost every single day of some concepts of what we're talking about today: spirituality, mindset, relationships, kind of stuff, just anything that relates to the mind. In other words, I'm sharing constantly almost every single day there.
Thank you so much. In the word of Dr. Victor Manzo, you're number 1.
I love that. Thank you, brother.
I'll talk to you soon.